I mean, look at Building 6. It's literally scooped out from the rooftops into the basement, but that structure didn't fall into itself. Not only that, but Building 7 falls into itself, and it doesn't damage the surrounding buildings at all, Richard.
It's beautiful. The sides of the building are brought inward in a classic controlled demolition where the interior columns are taken out first to avoid damage to adjacent buildings. And because of that, the penthouse drops just a second before the rest of the building, and there's a classic kink at the top of the building, all hallmarks of controlled demolition. And none of them, of course, hallmarks of destruction by fire, which is the official rationalization for the demise of this building. Mm-hmm. There were about 10 fires in this building, and the worst fires we have evidence of, photographic or video, are actually fairly small. And there's a lot of smoke on the south side, but there's no flames that are visible. And yet we're told that what happens is we have thermal expansion, this roaring fire on the 12th floor, which, by the photographic and video evidence, is gone out. There's no roaring fire the last hour and a half of the building. Nevertheless, they say there is, and it's supposed to have thermally expanded these long span beams and knocked the girder off of its seat, causing successive floor failures of 9 floors, leaving column 79 unbuckled for that length. And so the whole thing
it sounds like fairy tales
down.
and unicorns to me, Richard. We're going to come back on the other side. I want to talk about a gentleman named Shyam S. Sunder. It's the Infowarrior.
Your true colors inside you're ugly like me. I can see through you, see the real you.
Streaming live at GCNlive.com as well as PrisonPlanet.tv. This is the Infowarrior. We're joined by Richard Gage. And now I want to talk about a person who really was the front man for this NIST investigation and the spokesperson for debunking all the theories before they even had the official report, S. Shyam Sunder. Now, in the initial Popular Mechanics article, before they even put out the book, they quoted Shyam Sunder as saying that at the bottom quarter of the building, 25% was scooped out, kind of like, the building had literally been scooped out of the bottom, and that's why this thing fell, because of structural damage. Now, it turns out when they put out the official report, they had to admit that the evidence showed that it wasn't scooped out and there was no substantial damage to the back of the building.
Yeah, that is true. And also they acknowledged in the final report that diesel fuel was not a contributing factor. There were generators in the building, and earlier reports blamed these two factors, and they're not factors at all, really. The damage by some of the columns that flew all the way from the Twin Towers somehow 350 feet and 600 feet even from the Twin Towers. Some of these columns and beams hit the Building 7 and presumably started the fires there. But they now acknowledge, really, these are normal office fires which caused the acceleration of this building at free fall, which would require 400 structural steel connections failing per second. Shyam Sunder documents how this building fell due to fire in his computer animation, which bears no resemblance to the collapse of the building as seen on the videos. The computer animation even crimps at the top, bulges at the bottom, and has major warpage and indentation in the perimeter steel structural frame, which is a moment-resisting frame, a very strong frame. So the computer modeling actually correctly models incredible warping as we would expect, but that's not what we see in the videos. It's a straight-down symmetrical collapse, uniform acceleration. In fact, their computer modeling disproves the fire theory as anything could.
Yeah, and then not only that, but someone who contacted InfoWars last summer, I remember because I talked to him on the phone, we gave him a press pass, he got into the initial it was the press conference right after they had released it. They literally shut off the lights on him when he was asking questions because he was asking tough ones. He said, well, how did you come to this conclusion using computer-generated models? What's the information in the program you used to get to that? Oh, we don't know. You know, they don't actually cite any scientific evidence, any mathematical problems, any kind of program that actually does this. It looks like they just built a model and animated it to fall in the fashion they wanted it to.
Yes, they tried, but they couldn't even do that. And yes, they won't even give us. We have a FOIA request in for the modeling data so that we can run the program ourselves and check it. No, this is the most secretive investigation. It's supposed to be a public investigation done with public money. It's supposed to be open. And the same with the Twin Towers modeling. It's ludicrous. They try to show us that this 15-story section above the jet plane impacts, in the case of the North Tower, drove this building down due to its incredible weight at almost free fall speed. Turns out to be 2/3 of free fall acceleration, a smooth, continuously accelerating down through the strongest and coldest part of the building. In other words, it's not on fire down below jet plane impacts. And yet it's accelerating down through 80,000 tons of structural steel designed to resist that load. But the ludicrous thing is that this 15-story section isn't even there after 4 seconds. It's destroyed itself, reducing its volume in half in just 2 seconds, according as seen in all the videos. And then in 4 seconds, it's completely gone. What's happening after that? The building is tearing itself apart at almost free fall speed, hurling 20-ton perimeter wall units 600 feet at 50 to 70 miles per hour. The ends of these beams, many of them dripping with molten metal, as seen by the first responders.
Absolutely, and literally the concrete is peeling off as the core completely disappears into nothingness. We'll be back on the other side with Richard Gage, also going to be taking your calls, 866-582-9933. That's 866-582-9933. It's the InfoWarrior, PrisonPlanet.tv, Infowars.com.